North Delta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start off by saying that to the report that is being debated here, the NDP does have a supplemental report attached to it, and I would draw all members' attention to that report and urge them to read it. Mr. Speaker, it comes as no surprise to anybody that Canada is a nation of immigrants. Outside of our First Nations communities, we are all immigrants, or the children, grandchildren, or further descendants of people who came to Canada to make this land our new home. We, or our forefathers and foremothers, have been given a chance to start a new life here, to grow, to succeed. And in this endeavour, we have all been helped, every one of us sitting in this House. We believe that Canadians, even today, really believe that Canada's immigration policies need to be nation-building policies, not policies of division and fear, and not policies of uncertainty where we treat people in a shabby manner. And so to that extent, I want to talk about the kind of image that gets projected overseas when we make changes, which this government has done. And by the way, my colleagues sitting in that corner are not absolutely clean from the direction a lot of these policies have taken, because the backlogs did start growing under their watch. And so what I want to say is that the kind of changes we've had done without due diligence and without really consultation with Canadians right across this country, and without really thinking out how all the different pieces fit together, what we've ended up with is a lot of uncertainty in our immigration system. And I can say that if you were outside of Canada now going to our website, you're never sure if things are going to change today or tomorrow, or things that you're promised today may be taken away tomorrow or the day after. And also, at the same time, we have a government that has taken this file and has made piecemeal changes that are not coherent and that don't make up a multifaceted and enriching experience for new people who are coming into this country. And this government needs to acknowledge that they have messed up this file in a really bad way. First of all, let's take a look at our international reputation that has been damaged. When you hit the delete button on 267,000 files of skilled workers who applied according to our rules, Canadian-made rules, they played by our rules, they applied, they got qualified, and basically they were told, you wait in line, your turn will come. And then comes the year 2012, and the minister has an idea. Oh, the backlogs are too long. How do we reduce them? Now, there's multiple ways that you can reduce backlogs, multitude of ways, and we have suggested those, and we've shared those ideas. But instead, the minister chooses one where you just hit the delete button. And what you say to those people is, you know what, we're going to send you your fee back. The fee that you gave to us 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. And yes, Mr. Speaker, we've given them the fee back. But what kind of a reputation have we earned as a country that cannot be trusted to live up to the word that we have given? And what happens to the dreams and aspirations of all those skilled workers who we recognized as skilled workers, and the contributions they would have made to our country, but also the damage that gets done to their families and their dreams and aspirations? So, you know, whenever the minister talks about, oh yes, we've reduced the backlog, I always want to say, it's easy to reduce the backlog if you keep hitting the delete button. The other way it's easy to reduce the backlog is if you say to people, you know, for 2 years, you cannot apply for your parents or your grandparents. And what's really hard for me, Mr. Speaker, to explain to people across Canada in different communities is the party that sits across there in government often talks about family values and the importance of family. And what I hear from the new people who've come newly to Canada, the new immigrants, the ones who've taken up our citizenship, and it's heartbreaking when they ask me this question. So if families are so important, whose family is important? Is my family not important? And, you know, Mr. Speaker, I could stand here for hours talking about the economic and social gains to be made with family reunification, when families can be united and you can have parents and grandparents. I could tell you stories of how much I learned from my grandparents and what a critical role they played in my life. But also there are economic gains. Because for many people, they could go out to work with a lot more comfort knowing that their children are at home being looked after. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, this is not a government that has provided for universal childcare. And so in many ways, there are huge vacuums in our communities right across Canada where it is very, very difficult. And in many communities across this country, parents feel more comfortable leaving their children with family members, with grandparents. And you know what, Mr. Speaker, those families would be far more productive at work, and absence from work, mental illness issues would all be reduced, and that would be a huge saving to our healthcare system as well. The other area that we have to talk about backlogs very, very seriously are when people get married to somebody overseas. The concern here that I hear from the communities that live in my riding, which is Newton North Delta and one of the most diverse ridings going, I'm sure many MPs say that, and what happens there is, I have people who come in and tell me, I've got married 3 years ago, I now have a 2-year-old. We've even had DNA tests done to prove that I'm the dad or I'm the mom. And still, we're still waiting. So I think those issues have to be addressed, and it seems that it's from certain CIC centres around the globe where it takes an inordinately long, long period. And really, when you're talking about family reunification, parents, grandparents, yes. But when you're talking about spouses being kept apart from newborn infants, that I think we must all acknowledge is a huge problem in our society, because we all know the importance of the family unit and for the newborn to be with the mother and the father and to grow up as that family unit together. When we're talking about our reputation overseas, let's take a look at how this minister has managed the refugee file. The refugee file. The cuts to the healthcare. Right now, people waiting for their loved ones to be reunited here. Us creating so-called safe countries. Us now putting so much power in the hands of the minister and creating a two-tiered refugee system. And all of that sends kind of shockwaves where people are thinking, is it really safe? You know, we had that document that was leaked where there was a memo where it was indicated that the UN was even wondering, is it really safe to send somebody to Canada if they don't even get basic health care? Do we want to take that kind of a chance? So there are some huge, huge issues that have been created. Also, you know, every time we turn around, there are more financial barriers. And every time I ask about family reunification for parents and grandparents, we're always told about the super visa. Well, the super visa doesn't apply to your young siblings. It only applies to your parents and grandparents. And we also hear touted over and over again what a huge success the super visa has been. Let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, many people don't even qualify because the economic requirements for the super visa are high. And even if your parents are only coming to visit you for a month, you have to buy medical insurance for a whole year. And it's private insurance. And when you buy medical insurance for a whole year, on many new young families, that puts a huge financial burden. Now, if they're only coming for a month, why wouldn't you get medical insurance for a month? And this is the money young families, often families that are struggling, but they really want to, they know they can't apply for their parents and grandparents, but they at least want to have them with them for a month. Now they have to put that huge sum of money up front for a year when they know they're only coming for a month. That just seems bizarre to me. Now, Mr. Speaker, let me make it clear that even though they buy insurance for a year, if the parents only come and stay for a month, they still have an 11-month credit. But you know, that kind of a credit only works for people who've got a little bit of money in their back pocket. Not everybody in my riding has that luxury of being able to put out that huge sum of money that is required for medical insurance. And also, there are many people who are almost put off from applying for a super visa, and I'm speaking from experience, from actual people I've talked to, when you tell them how much the medical insurance is, and by the time they've factored in how much all of that cost is, they sit in my office and they cry. And I've heard this from other MPs as well, who tell me that this is a barrier. So, you know, we're not going to say the super visa is a bad thing. We think absolutely there's a place for a super visa, but Mr. Speaker, super visas do not replace family reunification. Okay? Somebody who can visit you for a week here or a week there or a month here or 2 months here does not replace a family unit that can live together and support each other. And, you know, let's get back to the federal skilled workers program. We got rid of the backlog by deleting. The family reunification, we just didn't let people apply. And the question that comes back to me is, there were other options available to this government, but they didn't use those options. They used some of these draconian measures just so that publicly they could say, we've reduced. Well, if you stop applications to the investment class, you freeze applications to the federally skilled workers program, you hit the delete button, horrendous delays in spousal reunification, you make it very, very difficult for, you're not allowing new parents and grandparents to apply. Of course you're going to say the backlog has gone down. But the question I have to ask is, those parents and grandparents, when the 2 years are up, are they going to forget that they want to be with their families? Or are they going to apply? And what has this government arranged in the way of resources to address that increase in applications they're going to face in 2 years' time? Because if you've been waiting for 2 years to apply with your application filled out, ready to hand in, and you know, Mr. Speaker, that's where there is fear in the communities. That just like the government hit the delete button, that they have some plans they haven't shared with parliamentarians about this program as well. And I would certainly urge my colleagues across the way, remember that you say family is important. And if family is important for you, family has to be important for all Canadians and all the people who live here. Let me also, you know, we often talk about the importance of family and other kind of wait lists. One of the things that absolutely is driving many offices, MP offices, and I hear from many of them, and believe it or not, Mr. Speaker, I even hear from some of my Conservative colleagues, is when temporary resident visas are turned down. And we're not saying that no visa applicants should ever be turned down. We have to do our due diligence. But, you know, when you're dealing with cases of somebody who's been to Canada before, they're leaving their son and daughter in a private school in India, and their husband, and their parents, but they want to come here for their niece's wedding, and the comment that gets made is, well, not a good enough reason to visit. Let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, nothing would keep me away from attending the wedding of my nephews and my nieces. Nothing. And yet, I have to be in my office listening to constituents who are absolutely heartbroken because they cannot attend. They can't bring their family member, even one, over to attend some of those functions. And those kind of examples, I have thousands of them. And just last week, we had a woman pass away in my riding, and her daughter, one daughter who lived in India, they asked for a visa for her to come to the funeral. And, you know, they just applied in India, went ahead, and then they came to my office and said, we never thought we would get rejected for a daughter to attend her mother's funeral. And so we have to look at the kind of image we are sending out. And, you know, Canada is a beautiful country. You know, I've chosen to make it my home. And I'm very, very proud of my country. But when these kind of things are happening, it gives me grave, grave concern for the future. And, you know, our backlogs do have to be addressed. But let's address them in a real way instead of doing cosmetic PR stunts just to say we've done it, but in the process harming lots of innocent people in a way without sort of paying due attention to the kind of impact it has on them. One of the other issues I want to talk about here, and I know in the announcement we're going to hear today, are the increasing financial barriers, which sometimes the sums of money may not seem huge to us, the different fees. For example, if you apply for a temporary visa, resident visa, you get rejected, there is no appeal. There is no appeal. All you get is this form, and often that tells you very little. And then you have to reapply and pay the fee all over again. And when I'm looking at the increasing fees that we're charging for people who want to come to this country or want to bring their family members here, then I really think we have to make sure that we're not putting unnecessary financial barriers in the way. And Mr. Speaker, you know, they are very, very, immigration file is a huge file. It's absolutely the cornerstone of who we are as Canadians. And my appeal to my colleagues across the way is, instead of making this up as we go along, putting a little plug here, a little plug there, hitting a delete button here, shutting the door there, I think it's time to absolutely take the necessary action where abuse is happening, as in the temporary foreign worker program, but then let's take the time. Let's take the time through parliamentary debate and discussions with Canadians right across Canada to come up with a system that truly reflects who we are as a nation. You know, the temporary foreign worker story is not new. I know that since I've been a critic for this area, I've been raising it in this House on a regular basis. And yet, it took two key stories, the HD mining and the RBC story, to draw Canadians' attention to it. And what it showed was that we have a temporary foreign worker program. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, let me make it very, very clear that the NDP supports a program that addresses genuine and legitimate labour shortage needs for Canada. And there are different ways to address those labour shortage needs. And we support a temporary foreign workers program that responds to those temporary needs while we grow our own talent. And we support that temporary need that occurs where there is a severe shortage in a particular sector. But what we do not support is the kind of manipulation that we have seen of the temporary foreign worker program. We're hearing that instead of LMOs, many ALMOs are being given, which were only really meant for highly skilled workers, and they're being given without due oversight and due diligence. So instead of actually spending your time looking for Canadian workers, Very quickly, instead of going for an LMO, you go for an ALMO and bingo. And then the government saying we're going to pay you 50% less is basically accommodating a race to the bottom. And it is impacting and suppressing salaries for Canadians, but it's also giving those who come in to do the same work less pay. Mr. Speaker, thank you.